Welcome,
Thank you for
Richard.
thanks. Thanks for the great introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for a brief presentation I made just to give an overview of how I want to teach the AP Human Geography course and basically give any of the parents in here some idea of what to expect. So I hope everyone can see my screen. This is AP Human Geography, and what is AP Human Geography? So a lot of people think of geography and maybe they just think it's memorizing the location of places or looking at landmarks or looking at cities or countries. That is not really what AP Human Geography is about. Instead, human geography is more about how, as this quote from College Board says, how humans have understood, used, and changed the surface of the earth. And so instead of thinking about how we can memorize the locations of places, we think about models and tools and processes that geographers use to examine patterns of human population, migration, and land use, and other important concepts. Furthermore, the human geography exam in particular will test your understanding of geographic concepts, but also your ability to analyze these geographic concepts in terms of using maps, geospatial data, infographics, and more. And so we'll be covering a lot of that important concepts during the lessons. So for a brief exam breakdown, the AP Human Geography exam is broken into two sections. The first section is 60 multiple choice questions, and it's a total of 60 minutes long. So each question is, you only have like on average 1 minute per question. And this is definitely an area of improvement for a lot of students and something that we'll be focusing on, which is not only knowing how to answer the questions, but knowing how to answer them quickly. And then the second section is the much feared free response section. So there will be 3 free response questions. And it's important to remember that these are not essays. They're simply just questions where you have to provide a written response. And for this section, you get 75 minutes. There are a total of 7 units. And each of the units has pretty much an average of 12 to 17% part of the exam. So each of these units are equally as important. And we will be using these units as the structure for the lesson plan. So here comes the big question of how do people score well on the exam? So the first thing, obviously, what you have to do is you have to know the concepts. That's a no-brainer. You have to put in the time to understand and learn the concepts and understand specifically the sub-disciplines of human geography and be able to clearly identify the sub-disciplines and the course goals. The second, less obvious part of how you score well is to think spatially. So applying a spatial analytic to all of the sub-disciplines and all of the concepts that you learn in the class. And hopefully your teachers will emphasize the spatial analytic portion because it's one of the key components of thinking like a geographer. The third component to scoring well is to know current examples. So it's really important to have a good understanding of current examples that might relate to concepts learned in class, because a lot of the free response questions actually ask for current examples and ask you to provide current examples in your responses. And finally, looking for interconnections between all of the different concepts, because most of the questions will not just simply ask you point blank, what is the definition of a concept? Instead, they'll ask you a question that is more abstract, and you have to use multiple different things that you've learned throughout the course in order to answer the question correctly. And finally, it's really important to be able to understand and analyze figures. So this includes maps, graphics, charts, tables, and even cartoons. And in the 2021 exam, this is really important because starting 2020, the AP multiple choice section of the human geography exam is now comprised of 50% stimuli-based questions, which means that they provide you a figure and you have to answer the question based on the figure. So I structured the lesson plan based on the best ways to target these 5 areas that you need to improve. And so we will start each lesson with a weekly overview of the unit. So as I said earlier, there are a total of 7 units. Hopefully most of y'all already have a pretty good understanding of these units. So we'll only spend 10 minutes on it, where we'll go over the key concepts, the learning objectives, and the key vocabulary within those units. And then we'll move on to multiple choice practice. So we'll do a lot of in-class practice, and we'll also do a lot of review. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then also we have free response practice. And during the free response practice, I will also be providing my own sample free response. So the students will be able to have a customized like example to refer back to. And also I'll be providing personalized feedback for every single person's free response practice to make sure that they're answering the questions not only correctly, but also concisely, so that they can finish all the questions in time. And then finally, I think the most fun part of the lesson will be the current events presentations. And so I would expect each student to come prepared in class with a current events topic that they can relate back to the unit of the week. And this way, if we have all the students present a single topic, one student can learn many, many different topics all at once rather than having to research all of them individually. And so it benefits the entire class, and they can exponentially build the current events knowledge base that they have so that they can answer any FRQ with a current events topic. And finally, for homework, this will just be an opportunity for students that want more practice to get more practice. So I will have them, all of them, revise their FRQs and resubmit it. But also, if students have more time, they're totally free to do more FRQs and submit them for more comments. And I will be able to, once again, provide personalized feedback for all of those FRQs. So that's the basic lesson plan. If anyone has any particular questions about how to prepare or what the exam looks like, I'm free to answer them right now. But I think it's pretty straightforward as to, how they can best do well on the exam and how the lesson plan addresses those areas for improvement. And also, I put my email on the slide, so feel free to shoot me an email if you have any specific or individual questions.
Just ask any questions. So one of the question is, I would like to ask is that when my kids was in 9th grade, they also asked about, so what's relative from your personal experience? Is it like the school? How does the school teach and actual the AP exam different?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the most important thing, the most important adaptation that the students must have going from the lesson to the exam is the timing of the exam and also the types of questions. So in school, they might not teach you exactly what types of questions you'll be asked on the exam, and they also won't teach you specifically how to answer the free response questions. And so what I'll be providing is, first of all, a lot of practice for the exams. I think the students, even if they have a lot of knowledge about AP Human Geography, they might not still score well because they aren't prepared to answer the particular style of questions on the exam. And so having that practice and having a course that is particularly focused on explaining the different types of questions on the exam will make it so that the students will be able to apply their knowledge correctly on the exam. Because honestly, the AP Human Geography exam is not necessarily a test of how much knowledge you know. More so, it's a test of how well you are able to know how to answer the questions on the exam. And so that is the main, I guess, difference between the teacher teaching in class and also how I can teach for the exam.
Great. And also, my kids also have another question that's pretty much like this. So they know they're going to put some key points to get grades, FRQ, but still, it's required the student to write an essay and how to organize those in a cohesive essay. Does that affect how it was graded?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the unique parts of the AP Human Geography exam is that the free response questions are not your typical essay questions. They're more so just looking for concise answers. So if you write an entire essay that doesn't really answer the question well, but it's really well written, you won't score as well as another student who wrote maybe one or two sentences that directly addresses the sub-point question in the free response. So um, once again, that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about learning how to adapt your knowledge to the test. Because even if you know a lot and you're writing a lot, if you aren't answering the question correctly, they won't grade you as well as someone who knows the style of the test better.
Great. Thank you so much. So anybody have a question, just free to ask.
Yeah, feel free to ask any question. And it doesn't have to be specifically about AP Human Geography, just anything that y'all are curious about. I think there might be a question in the chat. Okay. Can you take the AP exam without taking the AP class at school? Any books to recommend for self-study? That's a very good question. I think majority of students would take the AP class at school, but you definitely can take the AP exam without taking the class at school. It's just you would have to study much harder. And for example, in the lesson plan, we're already assuming that they already have a lot of previous knowledge on it, but I would say it might be a little bit too late to start now if you're trying to take the AP exam and you haven't taken it at school. But it's definitely not too late to start self-studying for maybe next year. And there are a lot of great books out there. I think there are a lot of textbooks that the schools use that are really good for self-studying. And also the AP Prep books themselves have a lot of self-studying material in them. I can send you a list if you'd like. If you send me an email, I can reply back to you then.